As humans, we tend to neglect and forget information that reflects negatively on who we are. And this includes a lot of the topics we've been covering. Today, we're going to be learning how we should be responding to this information that we hear. Last week, we talked about optimism bias and overconfidence and how this can affect so many people. Well, how should we really be responding to something like that if we know that we're doing it, or even if we don't think that we're doing it? How can we benefit from hearing that information? At the end of this video, I'm going to be doing a little book review of 2 books that have really laid down a firm foundation for logic, rationality, objectivity in my life. There really isn't much to benefiting from these things we've been talking about as long as we can fully understand that we are capable, if not currently doing these specific things. We can take the overconfidence example or the optimism bias. Especially with optimism bias, it's in everybody's life and everybody's engaging in it. So for us to neglect that or to kind of push that aside is extremely irrational. Instead, we should come to terms with the facts that are represented in the optimism bias and look to how to fix those. A very good way that I go about implementing this information into my thinking is first admitting that I've done them, even if I don't necessarily remember that I've done them or I can't recall a specific example of me doing it. I take it kind of at face value, be like, I've probably done this before. And it makes me feel, it kind of humbles yourself a little bit, being like, okay, I fall in this rut just like everybody else. What can I do to fix that? But if you don't even take that step to kind of admit that you've done these things, you're gonna feel like you don't need the fix. This topic specifically is mentioned in Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow. And actually right now I'm going to dive into kind of my little review on that book. First and foremost, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman is an extremely dense book. And that's something that I think everyone should know before really diving in. Even though that might sound daunting, and it did to me at first, he goes through the book with tons of different examples, different illustrations that help drive his points home and makes them very easy to implement into our everyday lives. With that being said, it's going to be a deep dive. It's going to take you a while to get through the book. Every page is filled with information, but I guarantee if you can finish and push through, take notes on the book, highlight, and get really everything you can out of it, you're going to come out on the other side with a completely new set of skills that you can use. Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow, is really one that's at the top of the pyramid for me. However, if you're looking for something that's a little bit less hardcore, I would highly recommend The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe by Steven Novella. One of the best things about this book is that it covers a huge range of topics, some that you're going to be familiar with and others that you're not going to be familiar with. Prior to diving into these topics, he lays a very firm foundation talking about different logical fallacies and different things our brains are prone to doing that may not be perfectly logical. He then dives into kind of a case-by-case basis, looking at tons of different examples and really using those tools that are mentioned in the beginning. If I'm being completely honest, Steven Novella's book is definitely more entertaining. There are jokes. Just the writing style is much more approachable than in Daniel Kahneman's book. This is much better for maybe a beginner or somebody who's not looking for really a study, but more of a good read. Both of these books are fantastic options. If you're thinking about picking them up, you can check them out in the links in the description below.